pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to films I should have talked about years ago. And now, let's get going with some more stuff relating to the 1990s. And you know what? I feel like it's also been some time since I decided to talk about an entire trilogy of films back to back. So, let's get started on that. Starting with good old episode 52, we have ourselves Rush Hour from 1998. For the record, I will be talking about the sequels in the next coming days. So, for this time though, we're just going to be sticking to the first film itself. Rush Hour 1998 stars Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan as a buddy cop duo, whom of course are on the case relating to a rather massive conspiracy. And this, of course, is one of many things out there that seemed belated, but at the time, it was the late 90s. Not everybody could get into this sort of tradition at the time, but of course the famous buddy cop duo cliche, or basically a dynamic duo very akin to that of things like Batman and Robin, or RoboCop and Lewis, or even of course some other things out there. But for the most part, the Rush Hour trilogy actually was a pretty fun mix of different things out there. Insane comedy is what seems to trump most of the other things out there. And let me tell you, if anybody could do comedy very well in the late 1990s, other than the many ones that we've known of so far, like Will Smith, then it'd have to be the combination of Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. We've already known a lot about Jackie Chan over the years, especially with some things like Meals on Wheels, Rumble in the Bronx, and then we also cannot forget what was at the time a very, very horrible thing to happen, Hong Kong 97. But that was more or less of a ROM that practically never even existed. And does Jackie Chan know about it? Well, maybe by now, yes. Well, anyways, this first part of the trilogy relating to Rush Hour stars Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, whom at first are not with each other, but that's only because Jackie Chan is on the road from China all the way to America. And eventually, Tucker is basically out there doing the typical sort of police work, including the elimination of certain cops and criminals, whom of course are patrolling the different streets. I really like that part though, where the first time that Tucker's introduced in the film, where a few criminals are taken down with some nice, amazing fighting skills that most sorts of people would be obsessed with or jealous of. And then of course, Tucker dances to Michael Jackson's Another Part of Me. That was amazing. Like, that's probably one of the only reasons why I love the song Another Part of Me by Michael Jackson. If Tucker couldn't do it, then who could? Well, you know what? It's almost like Tucker is basically the sibling of Chris Rock, whom was also popular in the late 90s. And there is one film in particular that I'm hoping to talk about soon, but I've already talked about Osmosis Jones, and that's not from the late 90s. But it did have Chris Rock in it. Anyways, going back to Tucker. For the most part, Tucker is just insanely amazing for an African-American actor in the late 90s. It really goes to show how true the comedy really can be back then. But even by today's standards, we are looking for a lot more to take place. Oddly enough though, because of the time I was able to get around to watching the sequels recently, a lot of the details are still fresh in my mind. But of course, the last time I saw the first film, I haven't really gotten back to it very much. That's only because I'm trying to save some room for the sequels so I can talk about them tomorrow and the day after that. But you know what though? I'm just going to leave behind some amazing details right here for you. When Chan and Tucker both meet each other as their in-film characters, they first do not really get along all too well. But then of course, after some music in the car, after some time eating each other's different foods, and then of course we gotta remember that part where Jackie Chan's in a bar and basically tries to blend in with Chris Tucker's lifestyle in America by saying the N-word. Yeah, literally. A guy from Asia says the N-word to another black person. Like, that's seriously what needs to stop. Like, seriously. Black Lives Matter. Stop Asian hate. At the same time, so to speak. But you know what? Well, anyways. This film is certainly quite enjoyable, by any means. I won't ultimately call it the greatest film ever in the 90s because I feel like I've already truly established that point. Not too long ago, actually. Do be sure to check out my episode on Darkman, 1990. Many years before this. But, anyways, though, the ending, of course, is just what you'd expect. Chan and Tucker both get along quite nicely after some teamwork takes place, where they try to recover some stolen things out there. And then, of course, when the heist comes to an end and the bad guys are defeated in a gigantic ballroom, then, of course, that's pretty much how the film comes to an end. They get along after all this time that they feel like they hate each other, for the most part. Still, as a duo on film, Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker are simply amazing, hilarious, and just overall, quite possibly one of the best I could have seen from that point. And you know what though? The sequels are certainly some things that I would really want to talk about, because the details are still fresh in my mind, so stay tuned for tomorrow and the day after, so I can talk about Rush Hour 2 and Rush Hour 3. But until then, if you want to see more, go down on my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.